All right. Hey, guys. It's your girl, Shut Up Chanel. I am doing a solo episode. I know. An episode all about me. Could you imagine? This week, we are going to take a deep dive into my backstory, my origin story, where it all began, and discuss everything leading up to this podcast pretty much. This week's episode covers serious topics such as sex, drugs, eating disorders, and more sex, trauma. So I'm warning you now. Listen, I'm not glamorizing any of this. This is just part of my story.
Shut up, Chanel. 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 Chanel, shut up. Shut up, shut up. Shut up, Chanel. Shut up, Chanel. Shut up, shut up. Shut up, shut up, Chanel. Shut up, shut up. Shut up, Chanel.
Hey guys, welcome back to Shut Up Chanel. I have a surprise for you this week. This week's episode is shockingly just about me. I'm going to answer questions about my backstory, how I got into the industry, some fun stories that I remember from along the way. What else? What else is this episode going to be about? I feel like it's going to give you more of an insight into how I became Shut Up Chanel. I don't know. Some of my really cool stories from the early 2000s. I was in Hollywood during the golden years. And so I feel like I want to tell you about it. I was born in New Jersey. And then when I was 6 years old, my parents told me that we would be moving to San Diego. And it's really hard. What I've always told people growing up was that I'm like a Jersey girl who was brought to San Diego when I was 6 years old. I have this image of being in a hotel room with my grandmas because we moved as an Italian family from New Jersey to San Diego. And my whole childhood, I thought that people didn't know the real reason why we moved to San Diego. Like, I really thought we were getting one on everyone. But now that I'm an adult and I look back on the pictures of my dad, everyone knew why we moved to San Diego. I mean, the adults. The children had no idea. But when I was little and we moved to San Diego and we changed my last name, my friends would come over and there would be like old photo albums and like our last name would be Sharpied out. And they would be like, why is your last name Sharpied out? And I'd have to be like, I don't know. So we moved to San Diego when I was 6 and we were full. See, when I was little, I always thought we were the Sopranos, but we're not there yet. The Sopranos were high school. How could I describe what I felt like we never fit in? My mom has blonde, spiky hair and wore large gold jewelry and dressed like wore pantyhose and like kitten heels and like just very mob wives, if you will. And then my dad was like this 6'2", like big Italian guy with like black slick hair and like pinky rings on every finger and only wore black. And so when they would pick me up at school, like people were like, who are your parents? So I tried to blend in with the other San Diego kids. Like I really tried, but I always kind of felt like I didn't fit in. Elementary school, I 6 years old. I was like in first grade. I was behind. There was a year of us being in hiding. Okay. So I missed a year of school. And then when we got to San Diego, my parents just put me in the grade that I was supposed to be in. This is so embarrassing. I did like Hooked on Phonics and shit. And then elementary school was just trying to like catch up and like fit in. And yeah, like we like really stood out when I feel like my parents got more San Diegoized as like the years went on. When we first moved to San Diego, both of my parents like still smoked in the house. It was so East Coast in my house. I had to tell my parents like I had to tell my parents at 6 years old that they needed to start smoking outside because my friends weren't allowed to come over. Middle school was rough. I feel like my dad was like getting into trouble when I was in middle school. And I feel like I emotionally ate is what I've discovered in therapy. And I got a little chubby. And so I didn't really have like a like a crew that I hung out with. Like I was like still kind of friends with some of my friends from elementary school, but I was pretty much a dork in middle school. I think I was in choir and I couldn't even sing. I just was friends with the choir kids, so I joined choir. I was like in CCD, which is church school. I feel like I was super religious in middle school, which is kind of funny. And I think it was because I was a dork and I just wanted to like a group to hang out with. And so I found that in the church. Then high school. Here's high school. I feel like that's when my dad got sober. That was pretty cool because my dad was home all the time then. Freshman year, still chubs. I don't know. I was excited about high school. I just kept my same friends from middle school. What was hard about high school for me was that I went to this middle school where half of the middle school went to one high school and half of the middle school went to another high school. And they were all like within like 5 miles of each other in San Diego. And so all the high schools like hung out with each other, but half of your friends that you made in middle school, you lost. And so it was kind of like I had to make a lot of new friends. So stuck with those choir friends. I tried out for color guard and like didn't make it. And I only tried out for color guard because I thought they like accepted everyone. And like I didn't play an instrument, so I couldn't even be a bando. And they didn't let me in color guard. I tried out twice for color guard. But Rayla grew up in San Diego too. And when I told her what school I went to, she said they had a really good color guard team to make me feel better. So that made me feel better. End of sophomore year, I had this like coming to Jesus moment and I was like, I gotta lose weight. The rest of my high school like time is just gonna be awful unless I lose weight. And I was like unhealthy. I'm not like fat shaming myself. I was like 172. I lost my virginity after I lost weight. The story of like me walking into Rancho Bernardo High School the summer after the sophomore summer, the vision of me walking into Rancho Bernardo High School into my junior year was like a movie. I remember it like I could get in that body right now. Like I even remember where I entered that day. Like for some reason I entered from like the front of the school and I had lost so much weight. Well, I was 172 and I got to like 130. My therapist says that this was an eating disorder because there's no way that I lost 40 pounds that fast. But to credit myself, like I grew up in an Italian family, like where we ate like it was Thanksgiving for every meal. Bread, like every meal. And I don't know, like my end of sophomore year, I was like, I'm going to start feeding myself. And I like discovered I did start smoking weed and that made my taste buds expand because I like didn't eat salads or vegetables. And I swear to God, I'm not promoting this, but like maybe I am. Like once I started smoking weed, I started trying new foods. So I started eating salads that summer. I was really fasting is what I was. Like I was eating dinner every night, but breakfast and lunch were mostly skipped. So I know that's not healthy now. So I'm walking into Rancho Bernardo High School. I am 130. I had just got my braces off. So not only did I lose weight, but I also had braces all those years from 6th grade until my sophomore year of high school. I had braces. And so that summer got my braces off, lost the weight, was walking in. And I remember people were like shocked. Like they were like, Chanel, is that you? And like people didn't recognize me. And I fucking loved it. Like what I'd give for that day, so, like once a month of that validation. Junior year, like started off on the right foot. Like I was validated. The popular girls kind of started, I think, you know what it is? I think that I just started having confidence and then the popular girls started noticing me. Like, I don't think it was the actual weight loss. Maybe the virginity was the actual weight loss, but I think I just started exuding confidence. And so, yeah, I got pretty popular overnight. Like I went from no one knowing me in high school to like my junior year, I was started to get invited to parties. Here's where it like starts to get like a little dark. I lost weight. I started to get popular. I hadn't even like drank or anything because no one invited me to parties. And so then they started inviting me to parties. And that's how I started flirting with boys and having my first kiss. But that's also when I like started partying. I started also making friends with people from other high schools, most importantly Poway High, and I loved Poway High. Like I don't know, I don't know if it's like the grass is greener on the other side, but I just thought like Poway had like the hotter guys and they seemed like more bad boys and they like partied hard on the weekends. And my friends, like, they were fun, but it was more like RB was more of like cookie cutter, suburban, great at football and sports. And then Poway High was like, it had the richest of people and the poorest of people in their school because Poway was such a diverse community. And I lived in Poway. I just like happened to go to RB High because of like where my house was. I just was like enamored with Poway High. I just thought, and so I wanted to start partying with them. So I started on the weekends. I would like drive around with my girlfriends and we would go to parking lots and like hope that guys would like hit on us. Like we would pull into the In-N-Out parking lot, get out of the car. And like, that's where I started to learn how to flirt and that I was boy crazy. And the thing is, I was always boy crazy, but I was super repressed because I didn't have confidence. And so then I got this confidence and I kind of went wild with it. I started kissing a lot of boys. I ended up losing my virginity to a Poway boy. And he was such a bad boy. Like, and the only reason I really think I slept with him is because he's like the first guy that had his own apartment that I met. Oh my God. He looked like Jim Morrison. He was so cute, but like totally like rough around the edges. Like my mom sold manufactured homes when I was a kid and like his family like lived in one of them. I still remember losing my virginity. It was nothing special. Like literally this was kind of the start of me choosing like boys that like needed help. Like I like to like be the hero. I remember he had like no money but he had an apartment and I thought that was pretty cool. And so I would like drive over his house and I would like pick him up and like bring him places. And one night I went over to his house. Oh, this is so not romantic. And like I knew that night. I remember leaving the house that night because I was still in high school and he was a year older. So he was graduated from high school. I remember getting ready that night being like, we're gonna have sex tonight. And I like got ready and like drove over to his apartment and he made spaghetti. And I was like, I'm not about to eat. Like I knew we were gonna have sex. So like I wasn't gonna eat spaghetti, especially new weight loss Chanel. He made spaghetti and then we had sex on his bed. But we're still friends to this day and he tried to hang out with me during Christmas. So they never leave. Senior year, so started hanging out with Poway boys. Poway boys were like my kryptonite to this day. I recently went to a Poway wedding like a couple years ago in Nashville and I felt like I was 16 again. Like I was still crushing on these fucking dudes. I don't know what it was. They were just like the perfect mix of like bad boys but like confident. It's hard to explain what I was attracted to, but I was attracted to Poway boys. And then I started to get in trouble. That was when I like senior year I started drinking. By the end of senior year I was hanging out with Poway kids a lot and we would party with the older boys. My first time being arrested was my senior year of high school. I was at a bonfire by the beach with my friends. Like we thought it was so cool. These guys, like these older guys, which is crazy because they were 21 and now looking back, I was 17. So that's a little creepy, but they invited us to this bonfire by the beach and somebody threw a trash can in the bonfire and it grew to like 60 feet in the air. And I heard police sirens and police came and like half my friends ran away. I got caught. That was the beginning of me knowing like I'll just always get caught. Like I can't get away with shit. I'll never forget my dad coming to the police station because I was underage. Like I was begging them to let me go and we had been drinking and my dad at this point had not caught me drinking yet. So it was like this moment where I knew he was about to find out and I just begged the cops to tell my dad I wasn't drinking. Like that's all I cared about. Like I was like, please just don't tell my dad we were drinking. And my dad came in and when I tell you, he grabbed me by the ear like in a movie and all my friends' parents that came were like, didn't do anything. Like they came in and they were like nice to the cops, picked up their kids and left. When my dad walked in, it was like, people were scared and he grabbed me by the ear and he like turned me around to my friends and he was like, say goodbye to your friends, Chanel, because you're not going to be seeing them for a while. And then the cops told him I wasn't drinking. Like I was like, fuck yeah, San Diego Police Department. Like, thank you. Then in the car, I he literally wanted to kill me. And that was the first time I think I really got in trouble with him. And my dad battled alcoholism and drug addiction. So like, I think it was just like, that was like a huge moment in our relationship. Then I didn't learn from that. I kept partying and getting in trouble. I feel like these were my rebel years. I tried cocaine for my first time my senior year at these guys' apartments. We would, oh God, it was called Silver Oaks. We would go over every day after school. We would go over there and party. And one night, it was like a Friday, so I knew I could like stay at a girlfriend's house. I was starting to like want to try it. And because I feel like it was glamorized my whole life. Like to this day, my mom still talks highly about cocaine. And I'll be like, Mom, I don't do that anymore. But I tried it for the first time. And that kind of started the beginning of my like 20s. But I started them at 17. So yeah, like honestly, senior, but so fun. I had the best senior year. But I knew I was starting to get out of control. I personally knew, because yeah, it was getting dark, and we were going to like TJ every weekend. That is something like really fun that like, it really was like Laguna Beach. We would tell our parents that like a parent was going to be there, or, you know, it was always like a lie like that. And we spent like every other weekend in TJ. All we needed was a school ID, and that was a lot of fun. I have like really fun memories of going to TJ as a kid. But then I knew I was kind of getting like I just knew I was getting wild and that I should leave. For some reason, I was just like, I should leave San Diego for college. But because senior year, I wasn't like focused on academics. I was like, where should I go? I had 3 girlfriends from high school that were like, we're moving to Santa Barbara. We're going to do city college and then go to the university. And I was like, wait, that sounds like a great idea. And senior year, we had been going to Santa Barbara to party on the weekends. And so like, I knew a bunch of Poway guys up there that were going. And then I had my RB girls that were moving there. They found us a house. It was amazing. So I moved out at 17 to Santa Barbara, and I lived there for a year. The guy I lost my virginity to actually was there a whole year with me too. I had the time of my life, and then at the end of the year, half the girls were moving home, and one of the girls was moving in with someone else, and I was like, I'm not really doing, like, I don't have a passion yet. And then I got the call that my parents were getting a divorce. My brother was still a senior in high school. So I was like, I should move home, find like a trade school or something to go to. I remembered that FITM came to my school my senior year. Senior year, like the military came and FITM. And so I always had in the back of my mind that I could go to FITM. And so I started at FITM in San Diego. I moved back to San Diego. My parents were getting a divorce. My mom had an apartment by herself. I kept the party going, and I was a hostess at a steakhouse, started at FITM, and then you have to do year 2 in San Francisco or Los Angeles. I always dreamt of moving to LA because when I lived in Santa Barbara, we would come to LA a lot. And I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. Like, I always knew I would wind up in LA for some reason. So then while at FITM in San Diego, I met this girl. We would do a lot of our projects together. We would like take Adderall and do like these really fun fashion projects together. And she had this sickening apartment in downtown San Diego. And she was like, why don't you move to West Hollywood with me? My parents are getting us a house in West Hollywood, and you can just pay me like whatever you could afford. I was like, done. So then I moved to LA at 20. I had just right before 20. So I was like 19, about to turn 20. I had my 20th birthday in Los Angeles, and I started at FITM LA in downtown Los Angeles with Lauren Conrad from The Hills. So the big LA. Honestly, there's so much in my childhood that I do want to talk about on a later podcast. I'm 20 years old. I just moved to LA. I live with this girl that I met at FITM. I also had 2 other girlfriends from RB High that moved to LA at the same time. So I was like, felt comfortable with that. I think at like 20, I clinged on to anyone I knew in this city, even if I had like played like, you know, softball with them in 5th grade and they happened to live in LA, it would be like, oh, we're fucking friends now because I don't know anyone in this city. And then my best friend from high school, Candace, started at Northridge. And so she lived in Northridge. I lived in West Hollywood. There wasn't really, I didn't know anyone yet. Like, I didn't know that you could literally rule this city as a young girl yet. I didn't know that yet. So I thought I like had to be 21 years old for things. So I started looking into like what was like cool, like 18 and up stuff that we could go to. And I found this, there was this party called Steel Panther at the Key Club. And it was 18 and up and it was on the Sunset Strip. And I had like seen them on like TMZ. I don't even know how I like found out about this night, but I found out about it. And me and my girlfriends went and I was obsessed. I keep repeating myself after I say it. It was like my dream. It was like a classic rock night. And so I felt like I was literally living in Almost Famous, which was like my dream to be a groupie. And after like the first week, we convinced them to give us the wristband that said we were 21. So that was kind of like the start of like, and at that club, we would meet people because there would be all like these band guys and rockers and we would like sneak backstage and stuff. And so I started to get confident in like my LA vibe then. And we would get invited to these like crazy rock star after parties. Like one time we did cocaine off this guy's dick, me and my best friend. We went in the bathroom with this guy and he was like, do coke off my dick. And I was like, fuck yes. Like that is so rock and roll. And outside of that club was this promoter, Josh Richmond. He's still around. I literally ran into him at Hyde a month ago and he didn't remember me. Shocker, but I was pissed. But he also, once I told him that like he was my first club promoter, he was like, that's really cute. Well, he at the time promoted for like sickening parties that like I wasn't even prepared for. Like he started inviting me to all these parties. He got my number. He would text me which clubs to go to. So he would like text me like tonight, Monday night's Teddy's, or maybe it was Tuesday night because Monday night was Steel Panther. Maybe, yeah, Tuesday night, like Teddy's. And I would go to these parties and like Leonardo DiCaprio would be there, like all like A-list celebrities at the time. And I was like, damn, like this promoter like is it. And so that was kind of like my that was my beginning of my LA party girl story. Through this promoter, I got invited to Ladue, which at the time, every night of the week was fun. Like you can go Monday through Saturday and it was fun. And it was like this small, like kind of intimate like venue where like you would literally, there would be like a cast member of The Hills, but then you'd have like Leonardo DiCaprio and like Wilmer Valderrama was really hot at the time. So I'm going to FITM. I needed to get a job. And one of my guy friends from high school, a Poway boy actually, got me a job at Arnie Morton's, the steakhouse downtown, as a VIP hostess. I always wanted to be a hostess. I can't serve people. I just can't. Like it was in the center of downtown and it was close to FITM, and people like Tom Girardi used to come in and there was this VIP phone that would ring, and that's how like we would know he was coming in, and he would come in like every day. And I just thought that was like so crazy because when I went back and watched Beverly Hills, I was like, I fucking know that lawyer. So I start working at Morton's and I loved it. I was kind of dating the guy that got me the job there. So like my life then was like going to Ladue, going to FITM and sleeping with this guy. And then that kind of didn't work out. And thank God, I needed another job. I think like something happened and I just like didn't go to my shift one day, or like, I don't know how reliable I was at the time, but I ended up leaving that job. And maybe it was because me and that guy stopped talking, or I don't know what it was. But I realized that like I needed like an industry job. Like I was going to FITM, like what am I doing? So I on Craigslist, back in the day, there actually used to be like real jobs on Craigslist. And on Craigslist, I found this marketing and PR internship, and I was going to school for marketing and PR. at FITM. And so I was like, this is perfect. It was for a high-end jewelry company. That sounded exciting. So I went for the interview and the place was actually freaking amazing. It was like this very high-end jewelry company that had a place on Robertson and Beverly. The place on Robertson was right next to the Ivy. So like that job at 20, like on Robertson at 20 years old, that street, like I felt like it was on TMZ every day. That's where all the paparazzi hung. And my job at Erica Courtney was to dress celebrities that came in for special events. So either like someone from their team would come in and we would like loan them out jewelry, or I would be like sent to like a press junket or someone's house or like a hotel room or like a red carpet. Like I remember thinking like, how'd they give me this job? Like I would get sent to like, I remember that there was this movie with Sharon Stone and Lindsay Lohan, because I remember I got to dress both of them, and Sharon like wanted me to come to her hotel room and then invited me in, and we proceeded to have lunch with her children because she wanted to eat before we picked out the jewelry. And I remember calling my mom from the bathroom. Like these are the years where I would like call my mom from the bathroom and be like, you'll never guess who I'm hanging out with right now. I did that with Leonardo DiCaprio too at 4 a.m. because we were there like as a group. I got invited after Teddy's one night. So like here's how I maneuvered hanging out with celebrities. So I started to realize that the celebrities, like they would have bodyguards whenever we were at the club. So there was always like a bodyguard blocking them in, and they would like, the bodyguards would like start to recognize us girls, and then they would like let us into the table. And I swear I remember Brick from back in the day as one of like the table security guards that like would let me in to hang out with whoever. And so I started to get the bodyguards' phone numbers because they were like, you should just give us your phone number and we'll like tell you where we're hanging out. And I was like, okay, this is brilliant. So the bodyguards would actually text me and tell me like, Wilmer's gonna be at, area tonight at like they would give me times too, like 11:30, because they were also their driver. And so I would text my girlfriend like, Wilmer's going to be at area at 11:30, like get ready. Erica Courtney's going on. I end up getting let go from Erica Courtney, and she even like called my mom and was like, Chanel's such an amazing woman, and I know she's going to be great one day, but like right now I know that her focus isn't on work. And my mom was like, my mom thought that was so sweet. She even tells that story to this day. She's like, Erica was so sweet and was like, yeah, like Chanel's gonna be great one day, but just not right now. I mean, I was going out. I was going from Ladue to after parties every night of the week, and then like still going to work. And I hid it for a long time. I remember the older girls at my work used to be like, how the fuck do you do this? And I'd be like, I'm fine, until you're not fine, I left Erica Courtney, and I was kind of just like, I think, unemployed for a minute. During this time, I got a DUI at 20 years old. So much happened during the year 20. Got a DUI. I was going to K-Fed's house. We were at area. My girlfriend, Brittany was visiting me. I remember like E from Entourage. What's his name? Kevin Connolly. He was with us. It was such a random crew, like Wilmer Valderrama, K-Fed, Eric Connolly. Like it was very random back then. That night, Big Mike, the bodyguard, was like, we're going back to K-Fed's. And I was so excited, especially because my girlfriend Brittany was always obsessed with Britney Spears. I think that's why her book was like, the Britney Spears book was so sad for me to listen to, is because like, we thought they were still like together. Like we honestly thought like Britney might be at the house when we were going there. She was not. So I was driving up Highland, going to K-Fed's. We were so excited. Like this was probably like one of the first celebrity houses that I got invited to. And I decided to drive because it was far in Tarzana, which I grew to learn, like a lot of people, I didn't know anyone in Tarzana. And so I drove us. We were blasting Britney Spears, like out the windows. I thought I was invincible, clearly. I got pulled over in front of that donut shop that's still there on Highland. and I got my first DUI, and I was really drunk, like really, really drunk. They told me I danced through the metal detectors at the jail, and then I just slept it off, and I woke up. I started to freak out, and then I got told I had a visitor. I was like, I thought I just got a DUI. Like, why do I have a visitor? This is like a movie. I went to like literally that screen, like the telephone, like in movies. And it was my best friend Candace that found my girlfriend Brittany had drove home the next day because she was terrified of what happened, and told Candace to go get me. And so Candace came to my rescue and waited for them to let me out. She told me that they were holding me until my blood alcohol level reached 0, and that's why I was there so long. And yeah, I laugh about this, but it's not funny. Like at the time, I was still blind to like how much it was going to affect my adult years, but I'm laughing because like I was just so carefree at 20 years old. And that's why I think it's funny. I was about to graduate from FITM, and I was like, I need to have a fucking job if I'm going to stay here. And so every night when I went out, like I would sell myself to people, like in a sense of meaning, like I was networking. Like I would be like, do you know anyone hiring? Do you know anyone that needs an assistant? I went to like, I'm really looking for work. And every night, like I was like, if I'm going to go out, I'm at least going to like come home with like 10 business cards of people that say that they'll hire me. And I remember that was such a thing in the early 2000s, was like business cards. Like you would wake up and your clutch would have like 25 business cards in it. One night at Hyde on Sunset, the old Hyde, I met these two guys. I'll never forget this night because Britney Spears was there, and it was that night with Paris Hilton, like the photographs of them. I remember going in the bathroom and her coming out of the stall, and I went into the stall and like it was covered in water, like the walls, the toilet, like it was so, like I'll never forget that, clearly. But as I like after that Britney sighting, I walked down the stairs, and there was these like there was the back bar, and there was these two guys standing there, and they were like started talking to me, and I started giving them my speech. And that's also something I would do with guys that like I wanted them to know like we weren't gonna hook up. Like I would be like, find me a job. I told them I need a job, and they were like, that's so weird, we're looking for an executive assistant. Why don't you like come to our office tomorrow? And I was like, I have school, but I'll come right after. And so the next day I'm at FITM, and I emailed them like from the library, and they were like, come on in. And so I called my mom, and I was like, I'm going to this like random address on La Brea. These guys said they need an assistant. And my mom was like, please call me after. Like that sounds terrifying. So I went, and it wasn't terrifying. They became kind of like my LA dads for the next 4 years. One was this like Russian producer, publicist, manager type. Like he still manages one of like the Brady Bunch people, and we worked with like Caroline DeMore on creating a swimwear line for her. And we would do all these, he did a bunch of events with Paris Hilton. We would book Kim Kardashian for shit all the time. We booked her for this gig at Tao, Las Vegas for $250. And she even went to dinner with us. Like, girl really worked hard. And then I worked for this like crazy French man who was like a photographer and a clothing designer and an events producer. So him and Phil did like a lot of red carpet events at Ledoux and all these nightclubs that I was already going at. Again, I'm still 20. Like they asked me when I was turning 21 and if I had a fake ID, because they wanted me to like help them produce all these events. And we would do like charity events. Like we did a bunch of like poker tournaments. Celebrities used to do a ton of poker tournaments back in the day. I feel like I don't see those anymore. Worked for them for 4 years, and it was so fun. And these are like really where like my LA stories, like I used to joke that they paid me in bottle service because I was making like no money. Actually, my boyfriend at the time told me that they paid me in bottle service because I was making like no money, but they like covered everything for me. Like my rent was always covered. I always had a bottle at the club. There was always free clothes because of like working in PR. So like, but I was turning 24, and I'm like, there was even a point when the recession hit that I let my boss turn my second bedroom into a grow room. And this was before weed was legal. And during this period of my life, like when my parents wanted to visit me, I had to like lie and like tell them some story because I had a grow room in my apartment. And so after the grow room, I was like, something's got to change. Like, I don't want this life anymore. Like, and yeah. And like Hollywood was kind of, the good years were starting to die. Smartphones were invented, which is like a complete the complete reason why celebrities and like the fun stopped. And so the fun started to stop, and I was dating this guy for 4 years. It was like toxic, but so fun. Like we really had the most fun. This is like the love of my life story. Like if he called me tomorrow, I'd go over vibes. I knew I needed a change. And so that's when I was going to move home to San Diego, actually. And my friend Ricky at the time was up here, and he like believed in me so much. And he was like, you're like so much more than like just moving home, and you've worked so hard. And why don't you like start meeting like these production people I know? He was like, you would be so good as a PA on like any set. He's like, you work so hard and like you're really passionate when, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, and to give Phil and Laurent credit, like they really did like turn me into this like beast, like this workhorse. And so I went to this dinner that I couldn't even afford to buy dinner at. My friend Ricky was like, I'll buy you a margarita and dinner. Just come because I want you to meet this girl, Keely. And I got there and she loved me. And at the end of the dinner, she was like, why don't you send me your resume tomorrow? We're starting this new show called Drag You. It's a spinoff of RuPaul's Drag Race. And for some reason, I feel like you would be great at handling the drag queens. And I was like, what? And I called my mom, and my mom was like, oh, your life's about to change. I was obsessed with drag queens in the 80s. That's where Drag Race started. And you guys each week have heard about all of my drag queen stories, so we could skip over this part. And I feel like you've heard majority of my life, unless I should go back and reflect on anything. That was a wild ride. I'm going to wrap up this solo episode with the quote from The Hills. The rest is still unwritten, baby. It was really fun to like kind of tell my origin story. I feel like there's still like so much that I want to tell you guys. And, you know, the last year I've really like started my therapy. Not the last year, the last 3 months. I've been focused on my fitness journey. I had not worked out since, if you have to think about it, ladies and gentlemen, during my party. Yeah, we have talked about it on the pod. We know when I stopped working out. It was during all of those weekends at Avita. And then the last 3 years have been rough for me because I did lose my dad, and I went into a crazy depression and kind of like paused for the first time in my life and started therapy, and I'm getting to know myself better and why I am the way that I am, and that my backstory does have a lot to do with it. And I'm just excited to like bring you guys along for this journey with me of doing more solo episodes. Hopefully I'll do more in the future. And I think that's it.